Continue with the last presentation entitled Methods of Building Assessment POTROG Model. Again, the presentation is prepared by Marjana Lutman. Since 2013, Marjana has led several POTROG research projects for the administration of the Republic of Slovenia for civil protection and disaster relief, within which the method for seismic risk assessment were developed, as well as seismic risk management system in Slovenia has been established. Marjana, please, the floor is yours.
This project already mentioned by Maya, which was for the state administration of civil protection, and also the municipality of Ljubljana with its apartment for this field is very active and initiated these activities. When assessing seismic risk of a built-up area, we address not only one building, but several buildings, neighborhoods, cities, or even entire area affected by an earthquake. The first purpose of this assessment is to provide adequate professional basis for a proper earthquake management. Namely, civil protection needs to be prepared in order to assure a proper response and recovery. The second purpose, which is, I believe, very important of this assessment, is of preventive type. It is a basis for a priority system for the reduction of seismic vulnerability of buildings and a potential damage in case of earthquake. That is, the consequences of a potential earthquake will be smaller. Some methods for rapid assessment have been developed also at ZAC in our history. First two methods are parametric methods for the assessment of seismic vulnerability in 86 and in 99. But they needed a certain level of experience and are quite sensitive to a judgment of the assessor. Therefore, with POZID and POAB methods, we switch to estimated seismic resistance to be more objective and to get the results more comparable with the results of accurate analysis. The basic parameters therefore have physical meaning. They are like tensile strength of masonry, equivalent wall to floor area, and the weight of the building to its floor area. The only output parameter is the seismic resistance coefficient. And here are a correlation between seismic resistance and vulnerability, which are used in our further evaluation. Already mentioned POTROG model, it's the seismic risk model, primarily addresses seismic risk of population because it's meant as a tool for civil protection. But three of its elements are earthquakes, buildings, and people. Earthquakes are natural disasters, which are beyond our control. The Slovenian seismic hazard map for designers is above, and one for civil protection with expected intensities of earthquakes is below. And within this project, also some microzonation maps with soil types have been established. On the other hand, buildings should be under our control. They have to be adequately resistant in order to prevent destruction and to minimize the damage. That's the main difference between these two elements of seismic risk. But regarding the people, the model includes, it has been developed, estimates of how many people are present in buildings of different occupancy type at different times a day, so that we all gain the needed data. Over 1,600 buildings in Slovenia have been assessed so far, mostly of higher importance or of higher occupancy density. These estimates represent our building stock and were the basis for correlations between seismic vulnerability and those properties of buildings that are available in the Slovenian real estate register. These are the type of material of vertical structure, the number of floors, and the year of construction. These correlations which have been found are relevant and reliable. So they are used for in the model to assess all buildings in the register for which data are available. So that's a rough estimate, but however, it is important to have them. When the model takes a step from the assessment of seismic vulnerability as a property of a building to the expected damage as an impact of an earthquake of a given intensity, the model relates to the European macroseismic scale and its definitions. We all know the intensity scale from 1 to 12 degree, but there is also the classification of damage with grades from 0, which is the state of no damage, up to 5, which means the destruction. And the results of the model are expressed in this manner. So for each of these damage grade, the model returns the probability of that the building will suffer this degrade if it is exposed to an earthquake of a given intensity. That's just following the definitions of EMS. So the model POTROG consists of database on the left up corner, says buildings and those correlations which have been found. The next stone are earthquakes with seismic hazard maps, the European macroseismic scale, our publicly available registers of buildings and population, which means they are covering the nighttime scenario, and the daytime occupancy model for the daytime scenario. The application, the model POTROG is publicly available on the website. Here is given, and it includes two applications. Here in the bottom line left is the application for any practical any stakeholder. It is called Assess Your Own Building. If someone describes his building by answering questions and chooses an earthquake intensity at the location of the building, the model returns the expected damage. The second one, right to the first one, is called Rapid Assessment Toolbox. It returns the estimate of damage to all buildings in the area that would be affected by the given earthquake. Next to it, there are some tools for civil protection authorities. Actually, for this reason, the model has been established. Well, this is an example of that rapid assessment toolbox, the second one, for which we enter Ljubljana as for example, we have prepared an example for an earthquake scenario if the epicenter was in Ljubljana, and an earthquake with intensity 8 degree. And then the model connects to the current situation of the register of buildings, and also to the maps, to all the digital data of the seismic hazard maps. Then it shows the attenuation of intensity on the left, and the table, the basic table with numbers of buildings and people in those buildings which will be affected. These are only the basic results. There are also some more results behind if you click these buttons, but I would like to show you this basic result. Well, in the red line, there is in the first column the number of very heavy damaged or destructed buildings. For Ljubljana, it is 399. And then in the next three columns, there are the number of people in those buildings if the case is in the nighttime, or in different options of daytime or working day or the weekend. The yellow line is for damage grade 2 or 3. Those buildings will be temporarily not in use, and then it's the green line, and some buildings remain unassessed because there are not sufficient data in the register. Here are the results of some seismic scenarios, all of them with epicentral intensity 8 degrees, but epicenter in various places. Ljubljana, Maribor, Celje, and Kranj are the major cities in Slovenia, but Lepena, on the right side of each diagram, is a small village in Posočje region, actually near the epicenter of recent earthquakes. On the left diagram, we have numbers of buildings. The number of people are on the diagram on the right side. From both these diagrams, we concluded that the scenario with the epicenter in Ljubljana would have the most severe impact on buildings and people, but not only by the numbers, but also relatively in percents of all buildings and people which will suffer the earthquake. And the second conclusion is given below. Actually, we see the two extremes. Earthquake in Lepena, which is very little populated. There would be only 12 buildings heavily damaged or destructed, and 32 people live in those buildings. But Ljubljana's scenario, almost 400 buildings will be heavily damaged, and more than 9,000 people live in those buildings. So the Ljubljana scenario, more than 30 times more buildings, and 300 times regarding the number of people. The numbers for yellow buildings and people in them are the factors are smaller, but it is logical, and the factors are the opposite for the green buildings. We just wanted to stress out that the Ljubljana earthquake would require much more effort for the first response and after earthquake rehabilitation. So thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, Marjana. Again, it was really interesting presentation. Now I open the last question-answer session, and please your comments. Ask Marjana what you're interested for.
I have a question, actually, if I can go. Thank you very much for your presentation. And I would like to ask the target of this tool, in the sense it is thought to be used by technicians, by public administrations, or also it is addressed to citizens for increasing awareness about risk. Who are the main users of this model?
Actually, more and more people use this. Actually, they have, I think, a counter on the website of the National Administration of Civil Protection Disaster Relief, and it was after it was set far more visited website of the government sites. So, but however, this model was above all established for civil protection, for their plans on how to respond to different scenarios. So they are using this model for the state level and for local levels. So the municipalities have been educated to use this model, and actually they use it. Besides, we in each of these projects we make assessment of certain number of buildings which are important for a particular local municipality, and after the project is concluded, they get results, another lecture. So the interaction is very constant. That's the basic purpose of this model. But of course, they are aware that the awareness of people needs to be improved as well. So that first tool, which was meant to be used by individual citizens, anyone, therefore we created questions in a very non-professional manner, so that would be user-friendly, and that they will understand what the results means. And we are still getting questions how to use it, what does it mean, and so on, because people always mean that a building is safe or is not safe. So first to understand that the resistance is of a characteristic of every building, but it might be small or high, and so that there is no straight line between safe and not safe. And lately, especially in this year, after those earthquake in Croatia, the interest for that issues is increased. Therefore, we believe that also these projects and support of our politics will bring some results. So it's a living project.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you, Julia. Thank you, Marjana. Any other questions, comments?
This time I don't have a question, but I have a request for Marjana. I think that among the countries participating in the Adriseismic project, you are those that have more previous experience in expeditious assessment methods. Because we don't have this kind of methods here, and preparing the deliverable, I saw that experience in other countries is more limited than in Slovenia. So I think that what you presented this morning is the most similar to the objectives that the project proposes. My request is to explore these methods with you again in the future, to understand if we can extract some criteria and content to be applied and extended also to other countries. I would like to make this kind of test with your method.
Yes, it can be well extended to other countries. I believe that only some verification should be at first carried out regarding the similarity of buildings in different parts, because namely, just a moment, because we started this project, this model for Ljubljana region, where buildings are already influenced by first seismic code. So regarding the older buildings, we believe that there are not so many differences all over the Slovenia. I have shown you what has caused the adoption of the code in 1981. Similar, practically equal buildings, 1.25% was 1.5%. So that differences are still to be studied and to have to get some corrections of this general model, so that the estimates also for other parts of Slovenia will be correct, as they are now more accurate for Ljubljana region. So only these milestones of changes should we have in mind when applying it to another region. The other thing is that we have our register of buildings available. That is practically the most important tool, because previously I think that the beginning of this century, in the first decade, practically we didn't have it online. We now have online. It is publicly available for every building. You can get this information. So there are two conditions: have good correlations and have a good database of all buildings.
Okay. I think we can try to make some tests, if you like. So on some selected buildings, for example, and see if it can work. If this procedure can work, if you agree. We can think about that.
Yeah, of course. I believe that some tests can be carried out and make particular adaptations for that need.
Okay, thank you very much, Marjana.
Thank you.
Georgia, please include me also in this part, because maybe we are interested to put something more in the training package we are preparing. And this part, especially the relief part, the architectural relief of the buildings, we are interested on because it's one of the issues of the training packages we are preparing. Thanks.
Okay.